Welcome to MyPersonalFootballCoach.com Soccer Player Development Podcast. Discover all the secrets, hints and tips about soccer player development and soccer coaching from some of the leading figures in world soccer. Here's your host, Saul Isaksson-Hurst.
Hi guys, welcome back to another show. This week we've got a great guest for you, someone that I've been trying to track down and get on the show for weeks and weeks and weeks, but he's a really busy guy, so I'm really happy that we finally got him on the show. His name's Tim Lees. He's got a wealth of experience in academy football in England, working at Watford, Wigan and Liverpool, and now he's an academy manager out in America. So he's got lots of really great experiences to share with us in terms of coaching and player development, and he's worked with some top people, and as I know, you know, that's how you really learn, from working with some fantastic people. So this is a really interesting show, one definitely not to miss. Sorry we haven't been around for the last few weeks. I've been travelling extensively around North America and Asia. It fills me with enormous pride to see so many people using the online technical program MyPersonalFootballCoach.com all around the world, and also now we're supporting so many clubs now. We've got some partner clubs all around the world who are using the online technical program as a homework program. So if you're interested in being a partner club, just drop us a line and we can get in touch and show you what we can do. And also really excited that also Ryan Hall's come aboard and is now helping us with the Coaches Pass, something that really all coaches would really benefit from. It now includes weekly 1v1 sessions emailed directly to your inbox. Also we've got guest people from clubs such as West Ham, Fulham and many more who are giving us some guest articles in the next few weeks and months. So that's really exciting. So lots going on, and I hope you're enjoying it all. And without further ado, let's get into the show. So Tim Lees, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Saul. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Can you just give us a brief outline of your playing and coaching career?
Yeah, so as a kid, I did kind of the normal route. Played for a couple of different academies at Bolton, and then got released just before scholarship. Went kind of down non-league route, and still kept the dream of trying to play professionally. And thought, right, I'll try and go through kind of the back door route as a player. Played non-league for about 4 or 5 years, and then kind of committed full time to coaching after that. So that was my playing career really.
And then what? Tell us about your coaching career.
Yeah, so started off pretty young. Did my first session about 16. Did kind of the normal coaching route, if you like. Started off just working voluntary in schools and at local clubs, and kind of assisting with an age group, and then taking a voluntary age group at a local club. Progressed to doing Saturday mornings where you're bringing kids in for £1 each or whatever. Obviously started getting my qualifications through that and just started building experience up. So doing soccer schools in the summer, and then moved to London to play. And as I moved to London, I just got my level. What had I got? I just finished my level 2, and I just wanted more experience. So I've managed like a few soccer schools around and done a lot of different bits without actually working at a pro club. So to be honest, so I sent an email out to every single club across anywhere as high as kind of the Midlands really. Emailed every single club with my CV and just said, listen, can I come and just put cones out for someone? I just want to learn. And not a lot of clubs got back to me. The one that did was Watford, and I was living in central London at the time, and just went down to Watford, put cones out for a bit, ended up, you know, as a lot of people do, you end up kind of making contacts and getting to know people there. And then a guy called Nick Cox, who's academy manager now at Man United, he just gave me a chance when no one else did really. Managed an age group, so managed the U13s at Watford, and then within a month kind of a full-time job opened up. So I was working with the 12 to 16s, and I don't know if you remember at the time, them and Celtic were the first school-based system, so the kids kind of went to school there and trained during the daytime. So was really fortunate because didn't know at the time, but kind of my foundations as a coach was working under Nick, who'd worked under Dick Bate at Watford before that, and it was a really good foundation at Watford for me. So moved after that to Wigan, and then finished up at Liverpool. Yeah, and now I'm over in the US.
So that's quite a meteoric rise, isn't it? Going, you're putting the cones out, and then you're full time a month later.
Yeah, do you know what, Saul? I was just keen. I just wanted to learn, and I'd been into a lot of different places. No one had given me a chance really, and I kind of accepted that I wasn't going to play a high enough level that I wanted to in terms of playing. So just went down the coaching route, and then I'd enjoying it. I was earning some good money. I was kind of running my own business at the same time, but I knew there was kind of a whole nother level out there, and that I really wanted to work at, and I wanted to progress up the system. So I got really lucky at Watford, and then just right place, right time. Just openings came up, and I was just really open-minded to learn. And I was a terrible coach at the time, absolutely terrible. There's no experience to work at an academy level, but just really open-minded to learning and watching people around. I was just fortunate that there was a lot of really good people at the time, and just took notes after every session, wanting to improve all the time. Went through the tough times of getting, just our academy football. You know how it is, mate.
And so, how do you describe the academy philosophy there at the time at Watford?
Yeah, so it was very much based around what I believed in, which was possession-based philosophy, playing from the back, dominating the ball, creating individuals within it who could flourish from a technical point of view. So it was a great foundation for me because I was getting opened up, especially tactically, to things that I'd never seen before. Very much based around kind of fluid 4-3-3 model that you see in a lot of clubs now. But at the time, I was kind of, 20, 21, something like that, and it was all new to me. So I'd done a lot of individual technical work at different clubs, but to go in and kind of, my first game was actually ironically playing against Mick Beale's Chelsea at U14s it was, and I think we got beat like 10-0. And I'm watching this game going, right, I am a long way where I need to be here. And then just went from there, just wanted to learn, and like you say, just progressed through really, really quickly. It happened really fast.
And so who's your early influences on you then in the early part of your career there? Anyone at Watford really stand out who you really talking about, you developed there? Who really stood out for you there as someone helped mould your coaching philosophy?
I'd say definitely Nick Cox. So he was academy manager at the time. He went off to Sheffield United after that and went to Man United last year. But he was the one who really influenced me on and off the field, really. So a lot of stuff in terms of behaviour and how to act around training grounds, and at the time how to act around U18s and first team. And he had a massive impact on me in terms of professionalism and pursuing excellence and wanting to be the best, and always recognising that there were top people out there that you wanted to aspire to. So, yeah, he was, even to this day now, he was still one of the best that I've worked with.
And they had quite a phenomenal actually record, didn't they, at the time, Watford? They were producing a lot of players for the first team there, weren't they?
Yeah, that's right. So it was unbelievable. I think they had, in 3 years, I think they had 52 players who were in the first team squad. And yeah, a lot of it was based around like the 10,000 hour rule. And at the time, I think it was 2009, I think. And it was kind of the model for Cat 1 clubs, if you like. So taking kids out of school, day release. Them and Celtic were the first clubs who were doing it. And in England at the time, there was only Watford who were doing it. So for me to kind of, it's unbelievable how it happens, but I've applied at so many clubs at the time, and then to be accepted by a club who I'm now going during the day and doing sessions before school at 8 a.m. from an individual point of view, and then coming back at 11 a.m. working collectively with groups, and then you've got the best players coming out, you're doing another session at 3 o'clock. I was just exposed to so much good coaching around me, so many good players around, and yeah, it was a real learning experience for me at a real kind of key foundation stage in my learning, if you like.
So for people who don't really know about that school model, so the guys that go in there from secondary school, which in England obviously they're going there at 12, right? And then so how much contact time are you getting a week, or is it a day? What's the benefit of doing that system?
Yeah, so basically, rather than at the time it was based around the kids not having to rush on straight from school. They've got a lot of homework to do. They've got to go to training. So the within the Hurfield Academy was a lot of different elite sporting kind of athletes, if you like. So they had like the best gymnasts in the country, the best table tennis players in the country. And then Watford were based at the school, so they had an indoor 3G where they just had so many contact hours, and you had so much time with them because the studies were based, the football was kind of built in with the education. So it wasn't just the football side really that I found. It was, you could take sessions away if they weren't achieving in their education, and there was constant communication between what they were doing in lessons and how that impacted the football as well. So it was, whereas you go into, I don't know, you go into different clubs and it's a lot of them are completely obsessed with the football side. It was good to have that, just to constantly see the support of the education for me, and that's something that I still carry all the time now when I'm speaking to a lot of players and working with players. So,
were there any particular challenges though with that system, with the school there?
Sorry, you just broke up.
Were there any particular challenges though? You talk about the benefits. What were the challenges with having that system?
Yeah, well, the thing was, so not all the players were based in the school. So you had some elite players at the age group who couldn't, for whatever reason, get into the school. They didn't want to commit to the school. So then, obviously, you had the other side of some kids who you would say at 12, right, you come into the school and make a commitment of 4 years. You kind of basically say, you're saying, right, you've got a really good chance of getting a scholarship. So then he's coming in the school and he's deemed as one of the elite players. But then say he doesn't get a scholarship at 16, they've made a massive commitment, and then they could. A lot of parents were saying, kind of, right, we've come to this school based on this, and now our education's lapped because of that and stuff. So there are other challenges around it, yeah. And
also, I was fortunate enough to work with David Dodds. I don't know if he was there when you were there. No, Doddsy, but he was.
No, I don't know.
Maybe he was there after, but he said there was a big challenge with the travel. Actually, there was the big thing was actually the travel expense of getting all the players in there from all over London, because some of them came from quite far away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it was there were minibuses that went round different sites in London, but if you'd imagine, the days were really long, and the kids are leaving really early and they're getting home really late. It's that's the transport is, even now, no matter what club you go to, the transport's a massive part of it. Yeah.
So then, what was your next challenge? Then you moved on. You're moving up north, back to the old manor, well, near there. How'd that come about?
Yeah, so I was. I'm obviously originally from up north, and then an opportunity came up at Wigan Athletic. So I moved back there, and then I was really fortunate because at the time it was when the EPPP was coming back in. It was a year before the EPPP was coming back in, so there were a lot of changes that were coming on at a lot of different clubs, and they knew they had to get certain things in place and certain staffing structures in place. So, again, just really fortunate that I was ended up getting given that a lot of staff left Wigan and a lot of new staff came in, and the structure completely changed. So a new academy manager came in and basically said, right, there's a clean slate. You can manage the 12 to 16s. There you go, get on with it. So, although I'd only had kind of 2 years experience at Watford in terms of being part of a 12 to 16s programme, it was a massive learning experience for me then to go from being part of a programme, and although being like a lead coach in that, to actually go and lead in a whole phase and lead in a lot of very experienced ex-professionals. And I'm only like 23, 24 years of age, and you've got legends at the club who've played there for 500 appearances and things. So it was that was a completely different challenge for me to go to that.
And what was the philosophy like there then? I mean, did you actually just create it yourself? I mean, what was it? How much freedom did you had, and were you in charge of moulding that for the 12 to 16s yourself?
Yeah, so I worked really close with me and the foundation coach. So we basically went in and we had a clean slate to do whatever we wanted with it. Now we put a program in place, kind of skeleton program, and then must have been 4 or 5 weeks into the pre-season, just before we were starting. Obviously, Roberto Martinez was at Wigan at the time, so he said, "Right, come in. I want to see what's going on with the academy. I want to see the structure and the philosophy." So after that, he had a big part in the academy. So first meeting, went in there, right. Show me what we're doing at the minute, Tim. So I'm thinking, right, okay, I've no idea what way this is going to go. So I said, right, how do you want me to show you? And he said, have you got your laptop? So I said, yeah, I've got my laptop. He says, right, there's a USB. Show me the whole program and what we're working on. So sat in his office, and I basically just went through the whole program, and he went through it in microscopic forensic detail and said, basically, this is what I want, this is the type of player I want to create, this is the best way of drawing it out, I think. These are the bits that I like in the program, these are the bits that I don't like. So it was similar in terms of principle, but it completely changed in terms of delivery and structure and the type of player we wanted to create.
So can you just tell us a little bit about that, Martinez? What was his vision? What sort of player did he want to create, and how did he want to get there?
Yeah, so his big thing, and I'd been exposed to it a bit before because I was a big fan of René Meulensteen program at Man United in terms of the 1v1 development. But his huge thing was two things. One, tactical flexibility. So at the time, we were playing 4-3-3. Everything was based around rotation principles in the 4-3-3. Roberto's big thing was he wanted players who were tactically flexible enough to adapt to different systems, different conditions, different formations within the game. So his whole thing was, right, I want you to expose them from 12 years of age to different ways of playing within it. So, right, they've got to be able to play, how does it change from a 3-diamond-3 to a 3-5-2? Do they understand how to change from a back three to playing centre-back in a back four? So a lot of it was based around overloading the middle of the field in different systems. So whatever the system was, if it was 4-3-3, getting the wingers to drop down a couple of lines and create a 5v3 in the middle. If it was 3-box-3, can the midfield 4 dominate 4v3? If it was whatever system it was based around overloading the middle of the field through tactical flexibility and not being predictable with what you do from a kind of collective point of view. And then his other big thing was the 1v1 work. So he was huge on creating your kind of Xavi, Iniesta, David Silva type player. And it was something that I thought at the time, quite arrogantly, I thought I could do pretty well. But then the level of detail that he went into was massively just educational for me. So creating a 1v1 type player is something that I know you're huge on, Saul. So exposed me to different things like defender positions. So 4 different positions of the defender: in front, on the side, behind, and on the angle. How do we dominate a player in terms of without the ball, in terms of movements, creating space for yourself? How does that then relate to fitting within the game of playing as two players together? So whether it's opposite movements, how do we react to each other, and then how does that fit into the kind of tactical flexibility as a collective 11v11? So he just went through a lot of ideas on how to create a real unpredictable, dynamic, real kind of 1v1 creative type of player. And there was a lot of trial and error with that, to be honest. So we then went away and just worked on loads of different ideas of 1v1 drills, what works, what doesn't. And that was a real learning process for us. We did that for 3 years. But yeah, it was basically what Roberto wanted in the academy was what we carried out.
And so how much time did you spend that? I mean, through the 12 to 16s, how much time did they spend on 1v1? You know, would you do like a, one session a week or something like that, or would it be part of every session? What would that look like in practice?
Yeah, so every age group from 9s all the way through to 16s, and he even put it in place for the 18s as well. We did 30 minutes of 1v1 work at the start of the session. So that can be an isolated 1v1 practice where defender in front and dribbling at you. It can be defender behind where you're playing in a 2v2 format and you're isolating 1v1s within that. So he wasn't specific in terms of I want this exercise and this drill, but it was very much, can you dominate your opponent from an individual point of view? Do you understand how to go against different type of opponents? How do you adapt with different types of opponents? So yeah, it was 30 minutes 1v1 work every session. That was his golden rule, what he wanted as a minimum.
30 minutes every session. That's wow.
30 every session. Yeah.
So what was that like in comparison to Watford? How much 1v1 work would you do at Watford?
Do you know what? Hardly any of it was so. It was more collective at Watford. So it was more individual techniques, especially unopposed. So a lot of position-specific work, a lot of you working on your own identity, a lot of repetition of techniques. But then in the collective format, it was more playing a certain style as a team. It wasn't. I hadn't been exposed at Watford that much to a lot of 1v1 work.
Would you call that, I mean, this might be speculating, but I mean, would you call that maybe like a traditionally English way of doing things, maybe at Watford, and where at Wigan under Martinez is much more of a, well, it's not very conventional type way of doing things at an academy?
Do you know what? I think a lot of it was more at Watford based around like the traditional Dutch and Ajax way of 4-3-3 principles, and then just Roberto's thing at Wigan was just so different than anything I'd seen before. It was just a lot freer. There was a lot more. The players had individual responsibility and accountability to kind of have freedom within the structure while still having a certain structure within it as well. I don't know if I've explained that well enough, but giving them freedom within a certain structure that you want. So not creating a predictable type of player. And there was a lot of kind of very, very small details that he'd go through that were just completely different for me. So, yeah, we were fortunate enough. He sent us to Spain to watch. We went to watch Rayo Vallecano because they were in a similar position to us in the league in terms of they were constantly fighting relegation. They'd had a really good youth academy that produced a lot of players that were kind of stolen, if you like, by the bigger clubs. So it was a very similar situation Wigan were in compared to Rayo Vallecano. So originally we wanted to go to watch Barcelona or Real Madrid, but Roberto was like, listen, go to Vallecano. Like us, they've got a really small budget. They do a really good job with the academy. They get a lot of players through. They get a lot of players that are stolen in the competitive area by Real Madrid. So I think you can go and both of you will be able to learn a lot by visiting them and watching the academy, watching the first team. So, yeah, that was slightly different because you know it is. A lot of coaches will go, right, I want to go and watch Barcelona and Real Madrid. And you go over and you're watching unbelievable players, but you don't actually, from my personal experience, you don't actually get that much out of it because not that coaches have to work less because the players are elite, but I found it much more beneficial going to a smaller club where they were very similar in terms of us, what they were trying to achieve.
And I suppose, yeah, the similar sort of player type as well, isn't there? Much more of a mix of players that you're dealing with.
Very similar. Very the street player, getting kids from kind of not affluent areas, not being able to go and buy the best players. It was a very similar situation that we were in. So we got a lot out of it, yeah.
So then what's your next stop then in academy football?
Yeah, so after when I was at Wigan, ended up moving to Liverpool after that, mainly through Mick Beale. I know you know really well. So Mick, the under-16s team that I took, we played a lot against Liverpool, and then we'd go in and it'd be we'd have some really good games, and me and Mick just had a lot of good conversations after the games, and then they wanted to change a lot of the philosophy at Liverpool from kind of the old Benitez to the new style, if you like, and I got asked in to go to Liverpool. So
what was it? So what was the the differences, the contrast between being at Wigan and being at Liverpool?
So working with a lot more international players, working with players that are bought from other clubs. So you've got a higher standard of players. Obviously, facilities a lot higher level. So I'm going from a Cat 3 facility, if you like, where you're playing on a bobbler, terrible 3G pitch, to you're training on grass fields in the evening. So, just higher level of players, and the philosophy was different. So Liverpool recruited me based on the collective philosophy and the 1v1 work, if you like, because that was the type of player they wanted to create. But again, it was a real learning opportunity for me to work around kind of Alex Inglethorpe, Pep Linders, Mick Beale, especially on like the individual side. So to really develop and learn how to base sessions around individual players, that was the key difference in going to Liverpool for me.
And so what did that look like in practice? Just talk, be that working with individuals. What's that? Be explicit about that work.
Yeah, so basically going from a lot of my stuff before was, although it was individual based in terms of individual technique and outplaying individually and the collective style. The style was really important, but the style was at Wigan, it was more based around retaining possession, keeping possession, dominating the ball. But the Liverpool style was more, right, dominate the ball but on the opponent's half. From a tactical point of view, it was a lot more advanced than what I'd been doing previously. And then the individual side was based around, right, how do you get the best out of your players? So how do you really create and make sure that the players are enhancing their identity as a player? How do you make sure every session that the players are improving specifically on what they need? So it was different than what I'd worked on before.
And then, so just tell a bit more about the philosophy of Liverpool then. What does that look like specifically when was Alex Inglethorpe in charge when you went there then?
Yeah, so Alex was the one who brought me over from Wigan. So, Alex was very much, he was one of the best I've worked with. The collective style was based on, right, if we're going to have a lot of possession, it has to be in the opponent's half in terms of we want to get the opposition in a low block and we want to get them in a position where they're so far from our goal, where the strikers detach from the midfield, where they're in the area of the field and the compactness that they least want to be in. So we keep the ball, we get to the half. As soon as we get to the half and we get them in a low block and we get them in positions they don't want to be in, what is it now that we try and do? So as soon as we lose the ball, can we repress and counter-press and keep them in the shape that they don't want to be in? As soon as we regain possession, can we get to 5 as fast as possible? So get to 5 passes. By the time we get to 5, we should have that big kind of open shape again, and then you're just dominating with the ball again. So whereas before I'd worked on dominance of possession and really controlling the opposition, this was more based around territory to enable you to be more efficient in transition. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. And then what about individual technical work? Was that a big part of the programme? So like 1v1 work, technical skills and that sort of thing?
Yeah, massive. Again, we did probably... So the day release sessions were highly technical. They were run by Pep Linders, so huge focus on individual technique, outplaying techniques, efficiency in the final third, really creating like that creative, individual, flexible, just unpredictable type of player. And then, there was still a lot of 1v1 work.
And so what would that look like, that 1v1 work? I mean, who led that? I mean, was it like a curriculum, or was it just, you had to like do a certain amount of time, a month or a week or whatever?
Yeah, so Pep's program was based around every player had to be able to dominate their opponent, but there was you did that through a certain types of cutting moves and certain types of twisting and turning moves. So I'd gone before from a massive ball mastery and kind of curve-based individual development program. So this was more really efficient in terms of, right, these are specific moves that you use to outplay an opponent. How does that look differently for each player? So a centre-back's outplaying move might be, I don't know, he shapes up the play to the full-back and then it's a drag inside. How does that look differently from a centre midfielder who's mostly receiving pressure behind? So his might be step overs or cross turns or them safe tricks to kind of get out of trouble or to be able to find a solution when there's nothing else on. So it was giving individual players identities from a technical point of view, but also giving them specific kind of moves that they needed, and to recognise that, to really understand themselves as players.
And so who'd you really put down as the main influences then? Obviously you talked about Alex and Pep. I mean, who else? Anyone else really took inspiration from as a coach you developed with?
Yeah, Pep was massive. Alex was huge, and Mick Beale as well was. I'd say they were the main three who really had an impact on me when I was at Liverpool.
All right, so then time comes to get a big move abroad. Do you want to tell us about your next gig, as it were?
Yeah, so it actually came when I was at Liverpool. So when I was at Liverpool, some guys came over from the US, and they were at a club, and kind of when you're like Wigan and different clubs, coaches come over all the time and say, "Can we have a look at the philosophy? Can we see the kids, etc." So some guys came in just to watch sessions, and then you just get talking, and they were looking for a bit of a change in philosophy over here, and they really wanted to push their academy on. So then they flew me over, and they had a look at the club, and they just had it's a club called St. Louis, and they had an incredible infrastructure. So training ground, which is probably easily Cat 1 level, 5 different fields, amazing complex. They had 6,000 kids within the club, so they had basically every team, every single academy team at each age had like 15 different feeder teams at every age group. So it's completely different over here, so because like where we're based, there's no competitive club within a 4-hour drive. So the nearest big club to us is in Kansas, which is probably 4.5-hour drive. Whereas before, all I've been used to for the last 11 years is, right, if I'm in London at Watford, right, Chelsea are getting all the players, or Spurs are, right, if you're at Wigan, Man United or Liverpool or Everton or Man City are taking all the best players. So I'd not been used to before having a constant battle for recruitment of the best players and constantly trying to do, if you like, trying to get to know parents and what can you offer differently than other clubs. And that's I've come over here and it's a completely different model, because you're basically getting all the best players within a 4-hour drive. So if I'm based in Liverpool, we're getting all the best players up until London. So theoretically, if your program's good enough and you're giving the right contact hours and your coaching staff's good enough and the opportunities are right, you've got to be doing a bad job to not produce players, really.
So how does that work then in terms of who do you play then in your games program?
Yeah, so I've gone from travelling to 30 clubs within an hour's drive to every single away game here. You have to go and stay in hotels the night before, because the closest one to us is 4 hours. I mean, some games you're travelling for 12 hours. It's completely different, but to get the quality of game that you need in what they call the DA Academy, which is the Development Academy. So so basically the DA Academy is around the best 50 clubs in the country who all have the infrastructure in the first team, and basically they all have academy teams all the way down, and it's based in different regions. So you've got a central part of America, an east part of America, and a west part, and you play in your league. So the 16s and 18s play in their league for the full year, and like I said before, you'll travel 4 hours to 12 hours for different games. But to get the quality of games that you need, you have to travel that far. Otherwise, the kids are not playing. It's not best with best. They're not playing against the best players. So it's a different model. There's a lot more travelling. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
So then is that like almost like the Academy League then? Is that sponsored by the US Soccer or the Federation? I mean, or do you play other MLS clubs and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's it. So most of the clubs. So basically, the DA Academy is the top 50 clubs, if you like, throughout the US. Or I don't know if it's 50, however many it is. And then at the end of the season, the best 36 clubs will enter like a playoffs, which is you go through different rounds. You play the finals are in LA. So it's a league format for the year, which is obviously different than England, especially at 16s, because there's no league format. So that next year is going down to U14s as well. So yeah, there's an awful lot of travelling. It's a different model, but yeah.
And so how's that? Who sponsors that then? Who pays for that? I mean, is it generated all through within the club, or is it sponsors from the federation as well?
No, the federation don't contribute to it. It's each individual club. Yeah.
So then all your 6,000 players then will sponsor in effect the elite team in each group. Was that how it works?
Yeah. So there's different clubs have different models. Some clubs have pay to play. So some clubs the kids will pay for the year, and then that will include all the travel and the food and everything. Some clubs won't. So some clubs the academy will be paid for. So there's different models within the States, but the pay to play model is different, obviously, than in England.
So is that what you have there, a pay to play model at St. Louis?
At our club is, yeah. So the kids at our club, the top ones won't pay. So like the players who are playing internationally, they won't pay, but the other kids will do, yeah.
And then so you sort of have like one, and you have like you have one elite group at each age group, and then they'll play in that DA, as it were, and then the rest play locally. Yeah.
There's one academy team. Next year it's changing. So next year it'll be 19s and 17s, and then it'll be all the way down to 13s next year. Will be in that academy. So yeah, they're bringing that competition element right down to U13s next year.
Fantastic. And just tell us a little bit about the philosophy then of your club there at St. Louis.
Yeah, do you know what? So it's I've taken a lot of what I've done at different clubs really, and just put that in place. So it's different over here. Every 99.9% of teams are playing the same way. So they all play 4-3-3. It's very similar in terms of the game model and the game idea for everyone. It's extremely athletic, so better athletes in general than in England, but not as technical and nowhere near as tactically flexible. So I think anyone anyone who comes over and brings in a model that is tactically flexible and brings in kind of that unpredictability element, I think long term there'll be a massive change. Because over here it's very structured. It's very like I say, everybody's playing a very, very similar game model.
And so, just tell us a bit about yours, particularly then. What sort of, what have you implemented to St. Louis in the time you've been there?
Yeah, so for two different areas, we brought in the collective development. So how does the team style look at every age group? And we started that right from U9s, and the individual side as well. So there's kind of two elements to the program. Individual side is based more around obviously the 1v1 work. So we have right from U6 we have what we call a 1v1 arrow, that the players have got to master a specific amount of turns or a specific amount of moves, and then once they've done that, they progress on to right. Can you manipulate those moves and turns in like a random order if you like? Then can you adapt it to kind of modified pressure where cognitively you're building in defender position and not fully opposed, and then finishing off kind of at the top of the arrow is the fully opposed 1v1 work. So it took a lot of time, but a lot of our coaches now can differentiate each player in the session on where they are on that kind of 1v1 arrow and what they need more of. So that was a huge part of it, bringing in the ability to dominate an opponent with and without the ball. Building in a lot of the stuff that I did at Liverpool, so trying to create a real identity for each player and making sure each player really understands themselves and what's going to stop them getting to where they want to go to. So there's hardly, no matter where you go in the US, it's all completely obsessed with the collective side, if you like. There's very, very few clubs who work or believe in the individual side. Very, very few clubs. So in terms of the game model, yeah, to be honest, I built it in 5 different stages. So first stage is playing from the back, or however you want to phrase it, construction or building, however you want to perceive it. So building from the back, get to the half with controlled possession. After that, it's movement ahead of the ball. So what's the movement structure look like from an individual and a collective point of view? So kind of like one that I got from Alex Inglethorpe, 7-1 movements, one of the kind of sub-elements of movement ahead of the ball being, so if I'm a midfielder, the average kind of Coutinho or Suarez or whoever, the studies that they did at the time looked at take 7 movements for every time you receive it once. So basically just trying to build into the players' minds, be patient with your movement, dominate your opponent, keep looking for the spaces. If you don't get it, keep showing. So within that, our players have really adapted well in terms of being patient on the ball, technically improving, receiving under pressure a lot, being more fluid and more free with the movement and overload in the middle of the field. And then the final stage, so what we spoke about before, really, with the change, what I was exposed to at Liverpool. So, right, we've got the opposition in a low block. How do we penetrate? Is it overlaps? Is it underlaps? Is it forward runs? Is it 1v1 specialists playing within that kind of jungle and within that block? How do we really make efficient players who are in between the lines? And then as soon as we lose it, what's our transition work like? So get to 5 on the regain or counter-attack. So as soon as we do, bang, right, now we keep the ball again. And then the last stage we look at is kind of which we want to be in less than 20% of the time. Defensive setup. So, right, how do we defend? Where are we showing them? What areas of the field do we want to bring the ball back? But basically, the whole philosophy is based around individual domination and collectively, having 70% of the ball, controlling the game, being in a low block the least amount of time as possible within the game. So the individual philosophy relates straight to the collective philosophy. Obviously, you couldn't have one without the other. So, we've put it in place about 18 months ago. Sorry, Saul, go on.
No, you go on, mate.
Yeah, so put it in place about 18 months ago. Being honest, it's the older ages we've found it difficult to improve them individually a lot because of obviously the patterns that they've been in for so many years. But the younger teams are really excelling now. So from like U14s and down, you can see a real style every game. You can see a specific way of playing. The technique's really coming through. We're getting a lot of younger kids now who are the national team are looking at a lot. So we're really starting to see this last kind of 4 or 5 months, the foundation start really coming through.
And then how do you approach that in terms of the different age groups? Do you split up it like there with the foundation and the 12 to 16s? Is it split that way? And is there a different approach to the different ages there?
Yeah, so say for example, that's a good question. Say for example, I don't know, stage 1 is playing from the back. U18s will have certain principles within that. So, can the fullback go 1 yard beyond their winger so we can try and drag him back every time? If the winger doesn't go with him, the centre back's looking for the second line. So it just gets a lot more detail. Whereas with the U9s, that might look right. Centre back split or the two defenders at the back split. If they're pressing just with one player, can you dominate a 3v1? So we build the principles in at the young ages in the different stages, but it just becomes a lot more specific and a lot more simple for each age group. So the style's exactly the same, and what we're looking for is the same. It just the detail gets built in, especially tactically, the higher you go. And then on the individual side, they do a lot more technical and 1v1 work from 9s to 11s. So we try and make sure that every player comes out of the foundation age. Can they understand the game? Yeah, but we don't see that as the end of the world if he doesn't understand to drop to the byline if he's being pressed by 2 strikers. We have a massive focus on, right, as foundation coaches, your job is, can you produce elite technicians who can play under pressure, can receive under pressure, have a mentality of constantly wanting to receive in high pressure areas? Can you dominate your opponent? So the focus really with the younger ages is more based around individual dominance.
And then to talk about how many coaches have you got on the staff then?
Similar to England, so we have I think we have 8 full-time staff, 9 full-time staff, and then each age group has like a main coach and then an assistant. So yeah, it's a similar setup.
Would most of those guys American, I assume?
Yeah, they're all American. So yeah, we do. So we've done a lot of. To be honest, we've done a lot of education in terms of every Wednesday we'll sit down for an hour and a half and we'll go through, right, these are where the groups are at the minute. This is what we want to look. This is what we want to look at. These are the areas we want to improve. So it probably took about 8 to 10 months to really get all the staff on the same page in terms of, right, this is the play we want to create. This is how it looks collectively. This is how it looks individually. These are session ideas. How's this worked? How's that worked? So it took about 10 months to get everyone where they completely believed in the DNA. They completely believed in what we were doing. Being honest, no matter what club you go to, and I've had this at every club I've been to, I'm sure you're the same. There's always strong-minded coaches who have a set way of doing it, they believe in. So it was hard at first to really get everyone to really see it and believe in it, but now we're in a really good spot where this is completely what everyone believes in.
Because I imagine it must be hard. Yeah, I know what you mean exactly about that, what you're talking about, some coaches. But I mean, for going into a new country, a new club, and then bringing these new ideas in, which I assume is not massively part of the American Federation Education program. So you're sort of also having to almost retrain these coaches from scratch, not from scratch, but you know what I mean. But really implant these ideas into them.
That's it, Saul, exactly. So the problem that we had at first was, and I'm sure you've seen it a million times, the perception of 1v1 work is, so we want to create a load of dribblers and we want the centre-backs dribbling through the whole team. So that was the misconception at first of, right, what does this 1v1 work look like? What does individual dominance look like? So that was a mass education in itself that I didn't really anticipate, to be honest. So really trying to get everyone on board in terms of individual development was hard, because the American way is collective, the American way is team, is success, is winning. So although that has a lot of positive things, getting them to believe in individual development took a long, long time. Even the collective development, so the model before was based around 4-3-3, but not particularly having a lot of the ball. And if we have the ball, great, but more around being difficult to beat. How efficient are we on the break? How good are we in transition? So to change from that to kind of, right, no, we're really opening the pitch up now. We want to expose players. So at the younger ages, it might be better if this kid's, we leave 1v1 at the back, so he's exposed to 1v1 at defending, because at U16, in terms of the counter press, that's what we want. We want him to be able to defend the halfway line rather than the goal. So just took a while, so it took a long time to really get him to believe in that. But the biggest challenge was the individual side. That was, being honest, that's still something that, just that freedom and that, the Americans in general like structure and like, they like specifics. They like to know. They don't like, right, you've got freedom to rotate in this space. You've got freedom to outplay in here. It's just not part of their DNA. So that was the hardest change for me.
And how do you go about recruiting new coaching staff, and what sort of things you look for? Yeah,
so the most important thing for me is, can you, being honest, a few years ago, I'd have gone, right, what's his tactical information like? Does he buy into what I want to do? Can he do this? But now, for me, it's more based around, right, if you've got staff that can ignite players, if you've got staff that kids, every time they drive through the gate, they are excited to come and work with you. If you've got 11 kids or 16 kids that are coming in and they are desperate to be coached by you, my opinion is that if we have coaches on a full-time basis that we're in an office every day constantly showing video examples, constantly talking about a game model and a game idea, constantly looking at, is this kid at this age ready to step up to this age group? Will he fit in with the style here? If you're having them conversations every day, in my experience, coaches fall into that, and coaches, even if they don't believe in it at the start, they fall into believing in that over a longer period. So for me, the most important thing is, can you get coaches and staff who really ignite kids and kids really believe in? And I just think, in my experience, you can get the rest. You can teach them the rest.
What's it like being the manager, being the big boss?
Yeah, it's different. It's different. There's different challenges. I've improved a lot and still nowhere near where I want to be in terms of managing individual staff, managing a whole programme. There's a lot more to look at as opposed to just on field, which is what my specific focus has been on for so many years. It's been different, and I've had to do a lot of development personally in that, but it's something that I've improved on a lot, and I want to continue to keep developing on. I've also been exposed to a lot of different things, so just a lot of different cultural shifts, and on the field, unfortunately our first team manager was fired last year, so I was exposed to, went in as one of the interim coaches for the first team there, which was a completely different experience. So yeah, a lot of different challenges. Personally, off the field, obviously being away from home, so I've made a huge sacrifice to come out of kind of my comfortable environment, if you like, being in England, and just coming away really on my own has been challenging in a lot of different ways.
And so, what are the aspirations? Firstly, what's the aspirations for you or for the academy as the academy manager, and then what are your personal aspirations for the future?
Yeah, so I just want to see the club produce as many elite players as possible, really. So at the minute, the club usually has about one every year that plays in the national side. So I'd like us to really long term produce kind of a conveyor belt of players for the national team, and specific players within that as well. So real unpredictable players, and players that are slightly different than what I would say has been sent in previously. I'd like the club to get the collective style right, and once kind of the younger ones are in the older ages, I think they'll really dominate from a collective and individual way at tournaments and nationally. And then personally, do you know what? So I've wanted to move into pro team for many years. I wanted to be a first team manager. That's what I wanted to do. And at the minute, that's something I still want to do at some point, but I'm not in as much of a rush as I was previously. It's something that I definitely want to do at some point, and I want to test myself at that level. And if something came up like that, I'd definitely consider it. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at the minute. I'm really enjoying developing players and trying to make a difference from a collective, holistic point of view for a club. So, yeah.
And do you think the USA are on the road to improvement and eventually winning the World Cup?
I think there's a lot of work to do, Saul, to be honest. The US soccer's there's a lot of issues that they need to sort out themselves. I think it's got a long way to go, being honest. I'm not going to lie about it. Can they get there in the end? Yes, but I think it's still a long way off now. I just think it's very small things. So athleticism is huge over here, especially even at national level. So in terms of the selection of players, I think. So for example, over here, you only get selected to play for the national team if you're playing up an age group and impacting the game up. So my thing is, and I've had this conversation so many times with him, is, right, well, Lionel Messi played down, so does that mean Lionel Messi would never get in the US national team? I mean, and you're also basically saying, right, let's take the ones that are impacting the game now, let's take the early developers. So I think they've got a long way to go, but they've definitely 100% got the players potentially to do it. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the weather, they've got the facilities. Everything's in place. Just the coaching and the structure of it all needs to really kick on more.
And now you've left England, looking on, reflecting. What do you think we could do better, maybe here in England, to improve player development?
Do you know what? So I think there's some absolutely brilliant coaches in England, and I think. You watch things on TV, you listen to people, you read articles, and Spain and Germany have got all the best coaches apparently. From my experience, which is quite a lot of going to different countries, some of the best coaches I've seen are in England. Your problem is the opportunities. So the opportunities at 17, 18 just don't exist. That's the problem. Obviously, because of foreign players coming in, and even foreign players coming into the academies now, there's just less and less opportunities for young lads to play. For me, it's just the opportunity. It's the opportunity at that age. I think the US have got similar problems, which is kids at 18 go to college over here. So you might have an elite 16-year-old who's as good as in England or Spain, but then they go and play college then. So they go and play college for 3 or 4 years, which is basically universities in England. The level's not high enough. So then they're losing out on 3 years development where similar players at their age are going out on loan, are playing in front of crowds of 10, 20,000, playing for a result every week. So it's just, for me, it's just opportunity. Whether that'll change, I really don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, looking at some of those guys who are playing in the Under-20 World Cup at the moment and the Under-17s who got to the final recently, I mean, there's some real top players there. So I mean, what would you say then? You know, because this has come up before previously in this podcast series, people talking about this lack of opportunities, this wall. How would you think we could combat that in this country and in America as well?
It's just a really difficult one, and everybody knows it's the problem, but there's not a simple solution, else they would have put it in place. That's the issue. So, I mean, for me, it's not. You can go in and you can say, right, this club's had this many debuts, but it's not, for me. It's not about that. It's not just about that. A lot of kids will go in, so. It's not about going in and just making an appearance, going in and saying, right, he's played for the first team. It's going in and staying in. And going in and staying in when Premier League or Championship have got high percentage of foreign players that have been bought in. And when everybody's fit and when everyone's healthy, actually going in and staying is a different scenario completely. I really don't have a solution to it. I like the Spanish model, where the B teams are playing at a really high level, but that's never going to happen in England. So I really, really don't know.
And where do you stand now in the debate that's the much debated on social media about the unopposed and opposed work and everything being within the game?
Yeah, I've seen that a few times. To be honest, I can't believe people are still talking about it. Just for me, it's you train as close to the game as possible, but you need to constantly refine your own tools and that toolbox all the time. So I think it depends on contact hours, depends how much time you've got with the kids. So, for example, if you've only got them 2 or 3 times a week in like a Cat 3 academy, I think you might have to work as close to the game as possible. But the kids, it's not even a debate how much unopposed work and how much ball mastery and individual technique you need to be able to master within the game. So I think unopposed is a key part of it. I've seen real elite coaches, the highest level coaches, do a lot of unopposed work. I just think it's like that 1v1 I was talking about before. You constantly need to refine the different turns and the different techniques to be able to outplay an opponent. But then the closer you can get to the game in terms of going fully opposed, the more successful you'll be in the game. So, yeah, I don't think you can go fully unopposed, fully opposed. I think it's just getting the balance right between the both, but that depends on each individual player.
I mean, it sounds like common sense, doesn't it, really? You think, but that doesn't seem to work often, common sense.
No, I've seen it. I've seen constant arguments with it. I think real elite coaches like yourself, people who've been through it, they understand where it fits on the spectrum. They understand the moments where you need certain to train higher up the ladder on some bits, to train lower down the ladder on some bits. You go and watch whoever the top players are. You go and watch Coutinho, Ronaldo, whoever it is. They do unopposed work all the time, mastering the finishing techniques, mastering their outplaying techniques. You read about Coutinho going and watching videos of Ronaldinho online and going out, still now being one of the best players in the world, mastering his individual techniques with the ball on his own. So, yeah, like you say, it's common sense and it's getting the balance. And
because of your particular experience, Tim, is that how important really is that the ball mastery specifically in that 1v1 skill work? I mean, as an important unopposed element.
Yeah, absolutely imperative. For me, there's no point in you can be the best coach in the world tactically. And to be honest, Saul, I went down this route at one point in my career of being obsessed with systems and numbers and receiving lines. And you can be the best coach in the world and you can get the players in the best positions on the field you want. But if they're not technically efficient enough to execute what you want, it doesn't matter how good you are tactically. So for me, to be able to dominate an opponent is a key part of keeping possession collectively. You can only dominate an opponent if you've mastered the ball individually. You can only do that if you've done a lot of unopposed work. So for me, especially during 5 to 11s, it's completely imperative. Now, some coaches will say, right, I believe more in Curver. Another coach will say, right, I believe more in this type of ball mastery move. But for me, if you can dominate the ball and you can master the ball, it's a massive part of keeping possession, even in a collective base. If you can't do that, you're going to struggle.
So do you think that's something as a coaching culture that we're not capitalising, something where we could improve the way we
100%,
educate our coaches?
100%. So a lot of elite coaches I know, not a lot, a high percentage of elite coaches I know would perceive unopposed work and ball mastery as, no, that's just foundation work. We don't need to do that. We've got to teach them the game. We've got to make sure they can win the game. We've got to teach them to win. And for me, it's neglected a lot at academy level. It's neglected a lot at the highest level. It really, really is. That was why it was refreshing because I worked on it a lot at Liverpool, and that was why at Wigan, and that was why it was really refreshing to see someone like Pep Linders, who developed so many players at Porto, to go in and watch him work with U21s on outplaying techniques individually, which I would imagine he's still doing now with first team players at Liverpool. So it was really refreshing to see such a technical focus at like the highest level possible, if you like.
And I suppose that's a challenge for people, isn't it? It's about, if they're interested in it, is where they're going to get this info. So I was lucky enough to work in, as I said, Tottenham when Alex was there and many other people, to getting that education in it. But I mean, if you don't have that opportunity, it's difficult, isn't it? Unless you're trawling online or something.
Yeah, 100%. I think a massive part of progressing as a coach is making sure you've got a mentor and making sure you've got someone who you can go to and can constantly improve you. You have to constantly see people who are better than you at what you do. So for me, when I was at Wigan after 2.5 years, being honest, I was in a position where I was just kind of teaching myself and trying different things and learning from myself. So I think it's really, really important part as a coach. And a lot of coaches are closed-minded, but it's a really important part to be around people that you can constantly learn and develop from and see new techniques and new ideas. It's a vital part of it for me.
And so just to last you, Tim, I know you're a very busy man. Just what advice would you give to a young or any coach who's aspiring to get to where you are, an academy manager, or when we'll work in Premier League Academy football?
Don't believe that you've got all the answers. And I think every coach has been through that stage before. I think certainly I've myself and a lot of top coaches that I speak to, you go through a certain stage where you go, do you know what, I've got the answers. I know this. I've got this cracked. And then you go and see someone and you go, nope, I'm miles away. So for me, it's constantly making sure that you're open-minded and learning. Don't believe in a specific thing. Be open-minded enough to see different techniques. If it's your thing to, I don't know, right, I believe in rondos at the start of sessions, then certain positional play. Go and see other things. Go and see other people work. Go and watch technical sessions. Go and get whatever access you can, but make sure you're constantly learning. You do not have all the answers. So for me now, I watch games. I watch so many games. I watch a Premier League game or a Spanish game every night. And you know what it is? So you reach a certain level and you just go, I'm miles off getting this cracked. There's a million things I've got to learn. That fits in there, but then this doesn't quite fit in here. That doesn't quite fit in long term for this player. Can I do that better? So, yeah, I think you've got to constantly evolve your ideas because the game changes all the time. But never think that you've got all the answers. That's a really important thing for me.
And what about for a young aspiring player?
Yeah, I think most important thing for me, just love the game. Make sure you're with a coach. Make sure you're at a club, whether it's grassroots or whatever it is. Make sure you're with a coach that you believe in. And make sure you spend an unbelievable amount of time just with the ball yourself. Love the ball. Dominate the ball. Learn how to dominate an opponent. What moves do you need to get there? Know what your identity as a player. Do you really understand yourself? So do you understand what your weaknesses are? Have you got an elite strength that you're going to make sure will get you in any team? So that, I think for me, it's really important to make sure that you really know yourself as a player. Make sure you've got a plan to where you want to go to, and make sure you're just working constantly on it all the time.
And finally, what about as a parent of a young player who's maybe been identified as gifted and talented?
Yeah, I've got some really good advice on that from a lot of experience. Just leave him. Put him with a club that you trust and leave him. So I've seen a lot of elite talents, and I'm sure you have, Saul, through the years, who the parents are the ones in the end that stopped him playing a high level, that stopped him achieving what they wanted to. Oh, I didn't like this coach, I wanted to take him somewhere else. Oh, this coach says he needs some strength and conditioning at 9 years old, so let's go on a treadmill and do that. Oh, this coach says he needs this. So I think for me, it's finding a coach that you believe in and make sure you just leave him to it. So too many parents, it's the same over here, it's the same in England, no matter where you go in the world. Too many parents get involved. They think they know the game. They don't like you. They don't like coaches rotating different positions or playing them down an age group or up an age group or whatever it is. They don't trust the process enough. So for me, if you're a parent, just leave your kid and trust the process. And for me, it's ironic because nearly 9 out of 10 parents who've played an elite level, so guys that have played top level, guys who've played Champions League and Premier League, they're always the ones who just leave the kids to you. They just leave you and they trust you with it. It's the parents who've played a bit of a level or they've played a sport at a bit of a high level who then want to interrupt too much, and it just affects the kids. I've seen it so many times.
And just finally then, Tim, if people want to find out more about you, how can they find out more about your work?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of practice, people are welcome to come and watch our club anytime, especially people in the US. We're an open door policy, and then I do contribute quite a bit online sometimes. So yeah, put some things on my Twitter. But like I said, anyone who wants to come out and watch, feel free to come out with them in the US.
Tim Lees, thanks very much, mate. Appreciate your time, and it's been fantastic.
No problem. Thanks, Saul.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to the MyPersonalFootballCoach.com Soccer Player Development Podcast. MyPersonalFootballCoach.com's dynamic ball mastery program is the world's leading online individual technical training program, proven and developed at the highest level in the English Premier League. Sign up now to train like the pros and take your game to the next level. Master the ball, master the game.